I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are delighted to welcome back a special guest, a man by the name of Alan Scher. He has had a distinguished career in academia, law, politics, entrepreneurship, and advocacy. From his tenure at Oxford and as a barrister in Manchester to his time with the Liberal Party and his journey as a successful entrepreneur, Alan combines his diverse experiences and life lessons into his latest book, Management Letters, in serious pursuit of excellence. We're delighted to have Alan join us today again on Spotlight. We thank the folks at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Alan, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, it's my pleasure to be with you again.
Oh, our pleasure is all ours. That is for sure. You have had such quite a diverse life, from politics to law to entrepreneurship. Now you've taken all of these lessons and whittled them down into a very, very important book, one that will shape people's understanding of management. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, can I just explain that this is strange world. Nothing in my life went according to plan. And becoming an entrepreneur certainly didn't go according to plan, because I was originally planning to be a lawyer. And then I wanted to get involved with Liberal Party politics. And then, because my father was dying of cancer and my mother was keeping the show on the road, I went back to run a family business. And now time marches on, and I'm learning all the time. But it took me to the year 1973 when I learned what I'm about to talk to you about. In other words, I was 40 at the time. And that was when I learned about management. And I learned about management largely because a friend of mine told me that I wasn't a good manager. And he was absolutely right. I was trying to run a furniture shop, and I go to furniture exhibitions and I'd buy furniture I liked, thought people would want to buy from me, and I'd try and sell it. And this guy says to me, "You got it all wrong. You need a manager." Now, the manager, apart from anything else he did, he used to go to furniture exhibitions, and he wouldn't look at furniture he liked. He looked at furniture that the customer would like, which is slightly different. And then he'd start to negotiate the price, and he'd say, "Well, if I bought 50 of them from you, can I have a better deal? And if you can buy a better deal, you can sell better as well." Anyway, this is when I began to learn about management at the age of 40. Not any earlier, and certainly not at Oxford, and certainly not in the law. And that's when the guy who gave me this advice also enabled me to headhunt my first manager and my only manager, Mike Brown. And what happened then was that we grew a company that initially I'd rejected altogether, turned back to because I thought I'd better try and make something of it. And then suddenly, with a manager, it took off, and it grew in the northeast of England very dramatically over the next 20 years, so much so that I sold it on a management buyout to the manager himself. And he, in fact, took it nationwide. And that company now has a multi-million-pound turnover as a PLC and has got over 300,000 recommendations in Trustpilot for excellence. Now, this is because of management. Now, what happened was that just before I retired on this management buyout, and I've got had no interest in the company after that, because if I stayed with them, if I agreed with them, it'd be irrelevant, and if I disagreed, it would be embarrassing. So I have no financial interest in saying what I'm saying about the company or anything to do with the company. But what happened was, just before I retired, because I still had a great affection for the company, obviously, it was a family company, I wrote a letter a week for a year. That's 50 letters a week for a year to my managers, telling them what management was about, because in those 20 years, I'd learned what management was about. And it's strange that I could do that for a full year. And at the end of it, I thought, well, there you are. I wish you well. Well, I then forgot about these letters until I was writing about special educational needs in Death of a Nightingale, and up to bringing that up to date in Death of a Nightingale 2022, when I had talked to my publishers about these writings as well. They said, we want to publish them because they're valuable to people who are interested in management, but not just selling three-piece suites. Anything with you're managing, there's a lot of truth, a lot of experience built into this. And what I'm really trying to say is that life really is a learning experience all the way through it. It doesn't stop when you leave university. It just starts really when you leave university. And it's amazing when you're young how you can misread the world. You build ideas up on the basis of a single word like inclusion or equality or something, and the world is much more complicated than that. And because it's more complicated, you need to understand the detail that you're dealing with, not just jump in and say, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if such and such happens? So what I'm saying has got a good deal wider interest than just selling three-piece suites, because it goes way, way beyond that.
Exactly. These letters are great because these are not letters you crafted for the book, but actual letters that you sent to help your managers. So this is real life, or these are real life lessons that you're sharing with readers. And one of the lessons you learned is that what's right for you is not necessarily right for others. Expand upon that a little bit.
Well, that's very much the essence of what I was saying to you 2 or 3 minutes ago, isn't it? That what I thought was the furniture that I would like is certainly not the furniture that other people are necessarily going to like. So, but that extends to politics as well. An awful lot of people in politics think that the education that's right for them is right for everybody else. They think they should want to get to university, equality of opportunity to go to university is everything. Well, of course, it is for the people who want to go to university, but it's meaningless for the people who don't want to go to university. They want a different career altogether that they can succeed in, and they're not given it in today's schools. I just today entertaining myself with a little debate with artificial intelligence chat box, and I just entertained myself with this more wisdom from Chat GPT, an alternative curriculum. And it says, additionally, introducing practical skills earlier can help better engage students who may not be motivated by traditional classroom-based learning. By offering students hand-on practical training, they're more likely to remain engaged and be interested in their education. Well, you see, that's my answer to all these people who've got attention deficits. They've just been taught the wrong subjects.
Exactly.
I'm sorry to say this to all those who are, laboring on like that, but it's really not a question of providing them with Ritalin. It's providing with something that they will enthuse about. I mean, that's really what life should be about. And for many kids, it isn't, you see. And it's a shame. Well, it's more than a shame. It's a tragedy as well. I keep reading about it every day. I read about skill shortages, and in this country, in the UK today, and it's simply because kids are not being trained into the jobs where they're needed and given the skills that they would really rejoice to have if they had them. And that's really, but that's getting away a bit from my book, because what my book deals with is the detail of management, and not a lot of people take it for granted. I mean, people today in the UK are going on strike to improve things. Well, strikes don't help management, I'll tell you that. If you strike in the National Health Service today, you're not making life any much easier for management, are you? And all the problems are not going to get any less if you go on strike. Now, are they? And it's this sort of thing which people need to appreciate, that not just management, but good management is what it's about. And we used to say retail is detail, but it's not just retail that's detail. Everything is detail. And that's what you need good people around to handle for you and be one step ahead of the game, not being one step behind the game.
Absolutely. And when you say game, the game that comes to mind, because your book is chess, you kind of draw a parallel between strategic thinking in chess and management. Can you talk a little bit more about this concept of tempo in the managerial context?
I can, because this was something I did pick up at Oxford. I had a friend who came from Greece, And we used to play chess together, and he was the man who introduced me to this word tempo. Now, when I ask my friends about what they think is the word tempo, they think it's something to do with speed. Well, when you play chess, it's nothing at all to do with speed. On the chessboard, either white has the tempo or black has the tempo. White starts the game off, black reacts to it. And the challenge, in fact, is in chess to try to either keep the tempo or win the tempo. And a lot of life is like that, that people dictate to you or you dictate to them. And the art is to do it nicely with finesse and not just to be brutal about it. And so I'll give you a little illustration from the world of furniture, which is easily to understand. That if I sell a three-piece suite to somebody and say, when would you like it delivered? And you say to me next Friday night at 6 o'clock in the evening, you've got the tempo. You're telling me when you want it. If I say to you, you've made a most wonderful purchase. You really congratulate you on it. You've been very, very wise. That's a great choice you'll enjoy for many years. Now, I can get it to you. I'm delighted to tell you next Tuesday morning or next Thursday afternoon. Now, I've got the tempo because I'm actually now a lot of life's a bit like that it's a question of how you try to influence your relationship with somebody else in the nicest possible way, but so that he doesn't dictate it to you, but you're dictating to him. And that actually is the first letter in my book. I've also got a letter about Murphy. Do you know who Murphy is? Now, Murphy is the man who, excuse me, say man, but it could be a woman too, but it's whoever makes a mess of things for you. And sometimes every time in life, you do get somebody who makes a mess of things.
Right.
Well, when that starts, you've got to assume that Murphy is around until you personally are satisfied that he's not there, because usually once he pops his head around the door, he likes to hang around. So I'm just telling
Exactly.
you, my little word of advice there is that when things don't go right for you, don't assume when you've got it right, you have, until you've absolutely bottomed it. And that's really what I'm saying. But there are lots of illustrations. I've got the list and the contents page. It goes on for 51 letters. But the last one but one is Kaizen. Kaizen, you know the word Kaizen?
Mm-hmm.
Zen is a Japanese word, and it means continuous improvement. You should never assume that you've got there, that you've actually reached the end of your journey, because I certainly haven't. Even at the age of 90, I haven't. I still find that I can learn things. And certainly today, it's the most fascinating thing, is artificial intelligence, because there I can start up again, all over again.
Exactly. You're augmented now.
I have discussions with a legal friend of mine. I'll keep him silent, whoever he is. I won't tell you who he is. But we have arguments, and I now toss at him artificial intelligence as well as my own.
Exactly. Now you're not just one person, you're a whole team of people.
I've got this secret weapon, actually, in argument now.
Exactly.
Which I wield from time to time. But this is the interesting world that we're in at the moment. It's a challenging world. For heaven knows it's a challenging world. But don't give up on it. And the other thing which I really must say to you is that don't just stick to simple words like equality and inclusion and so on. It's all too easy just to use a single word like that. I mean, people talk about equality. Where's the equality with the money that bankers get? Where's the equality, heaven's sake, with the money that footballers get? It's ridiculous to talk about equality. Right. Fairness, for sure. You can talk a lot about fairness. And fair play is very important in life. Playing fair by people is very fair, is very right. But equality, oh God, it's too much of this word equality. When I say, I've got this saying that we're equal only sometimes. Right. We're unequal most times, and we're always different. And that's what you've got to respect. And the other thing that I preach, you see in my book, and you see, is mutual respect, because I mean, it's you know, and there's some lovely people around. It's not difficult to mutually respect a lot of them. Maybe difficult to respect some of them, but there's an
Exactly.
awful lot of people out there that they really can respect very, very easily.
Exactly.
I must tell you, if I've got time to tell you,
Sure.
there's the person who introduces my book. You know, this one, the Management
Hmm.
Letters. Now, you know, people talk about the equality of the sexes. Well, I've been very fortunate in my life to have had some wonderful women in my life, my wife, my mother, and there's a lady called Leslie Sheraton. Now, I just want to talk to you about Leslie Sheraton.
Hmm.
Leslie Sheraton was trained by my mother as a clerk. She became PA. She became PA to me and until I retired in 1993. She became PA to my successor. She became PA to his successor,
Right.
and she's just retired.
Hmm.
And she's come back to me as my secretary. Now, she thinks
Nice.
she owes me something. But the beautiful thing about Leslie is that she ultimately, from the start of a clerk in a little furniture shop in Sunderland, ended up as the assistant company secretary of a PLC with a turnover of hundreds of millions of pounds and over 300,000 Trustpilot recommendations for excellence. Now, I've got to tell you, that's a career. And when people talk about the equality of the sexes, I do tell you that it is nonsense. Women are superior. I mean,
Exactly.
quite
Exactly.
often they are anyway. In my life, I've met some wonderful women, and
Yeah.
no argument. And they can produce children as well. I mean, you know, and they've got
Exactly.
more emotional intelligence. I
And they
mean,
look better than us too, which
they've
is
got
good
huge
too.
advantages. And I don't, you know, I'm sorry I'm a man actually at times, you know, but I'm serious that, you
That's
know,
funny.
there's too much going on about this. Whereas in fact, you just treat people what they are. And
Right.
sometimes women, as I say, in my experience, are absolutely brilliant. And I'm indebted to all of them who've helped me in my life.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you've written a fantastic book and you make a good point. We are equal in the eyes of the law, we are equal under the eyes of God. But when it comes to the workplace, excellence should be the gold standard, being the best you can be. And that's
That's
what
it.
you make very, very clear in your book. The book is called Management Letters in Serious Pursuit of Excellence. It is written by Alan Scher. He is a Renaissance man. He has had a varied and storied career, and you can learn a lot from him. Alan, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
It's been a pleasure, as always, to see you and meet you. More,
Pleasure's all mine, Alan.
more friends to you too.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful summer. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan
Thank you very
Crawford,
much.
thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on